Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we're going to be doing a video about Lucid Motors. Before I start the video, guys, I just want everybody to know that everything I say in my videos is not financial advice. It is just my personal opinion and for educational purposes only. So with that being said, let's get started with the video. So today, Lucid up 2.63%, currently sitting at $40.17. I mean, obviously, people know what Lucid Motors is. Lucid Motors is an EV company based out of Nevada/California, and it has been on the upcoming. So if we take a look at the 5-year chart, this thing IPO'd September 18th of 2020, currently up 292%, which is pretty good. It did IPO as Churchill Capital, which is basically just one of those stocks that are basically set to merge with a bigger company. We see, looking at the 1-year chart here, we got a big run up February earlier this year up to $58, and then once the merger was actually announced, we see a huge crash here in March. This is kind of when a lot of the EV companies themselves are all crashing. It wasn't just Lucid Motors itself, but a lot of the EV market took a huge correction along with a lot of huge growth stocks, traded sideways basically the whole year. A lot of people wondering, what's going to be the future of Lucid Motors? Is it going to continue to make product? You know what I mean? So people were generally scared. People who bought it at $58, $60, stuff like that, were generally just concerned that, okay, now the stock basically had a low of, remember, around $15. That's when Lucid announced that they were going to be doing a huge share sale. And that was obviously back in, I think, June, July-ish. But looking back, for the year, it's up 304%, and we're actually starting to see a steady climb back up. If we take a look at the 3-month chart, it's up 109.95%. Looking at the 1-month chart, though, it's down 9.62%. We did see a little bit of a run-up on Lucid Motors here earlier in November, where it did hit the $55 mark. And it was slowly climbing back up. A lot of people kind of probably trying to force a short squeeze into Lucid Motors because the stock is heavily shorted. Looking at the 1-week chart, down 5.49%, and today it's up 2.89%. So it basically does raise the question, what is the future of Lucid Motors? Should you buy Lucid Motors at $40.32? What's my overall price prediction for Lucid Motors? And what the future of the overall company is. So we know that EV is blowing up, although a lot of the EV stocks are not doing too well right now. This is because there's just a lot of market uncertainty. We have a new strain of COVID going around. There's a huge chip shortage that's kind of taking on the world as well. So if we put into perspective altogether, it's not a very good time for EV companies, but I always encourage people to buy the dip when you get the chance when it comes to moments like these. Not saying that Lucid Motors right now at $40.37 is really much of a dip, but, back in the day when it was $15, $16, $17, I told people, I'm like, buy the dip on Lucid Motors. The stock is going to go up. The company is doing pretty well, right? Obviously, the Lucid Air is very beautiful, and a lot of people even say it's better than the Tesla itself. Obviously, that's from an opinion perspective, but it does have a 500-mile range. And there was also good news, too, that Lucid Motors is basically on the list to get into the NASDAQ 100, which is absolutely amazing. So there's a lot of good news surrounding Lucid Motors. For me, my overall price prediction for Lucid Motors by the end of 2022 is around $75 to $100. I do think that Lucid Motors definitely can hit $100 by the end of next year. Obviously, there is a lot of external factors that do kind of take account into the market itself. I mean, we saw that with NIO, we saw that with XPeng, we saw that with Tesla. Obviously it was not a good year for China, but you know what I mean? That did basically reflect on the stock prices, for NIO and XPeng. But with Lucid being here in the United States, the only thing it really has to worry about is basically just a chip shortage. And it also has to worry about COVID, since there now is a new strain that's kind of running around. But if we take a look at it from the bigger perspective, I do think that Lucid Motors is a good buy at $40.30 because I do believe in the longer term prospect of Lucid Motors. We are heading more towards an EV type of world. A lot more companies are pushing towards the EV. And we even take a look at it like Ford, Volkswagen, General Motors, all these big time companies are putting a lot more focus into developing their EV vehicles. I was reading an article the other day that said that Ford in itself is now producing more Mach-E's because the car itself is selling very, very well. It's same with Lucid. A lot of people are now starting to see the benefit of EV, what it can actually do, how it's better for the environment. It's more cost effective. So a lot of these big time EV companies, they're starting to IPO, they're starting to come out, they're starting to sell a lot of cars. But the hardest one is basically picking out which ones are going to be the winners. With Lucid Motors, I've been bullish about this company ever since it IPO'd. I've read a lot about the company. The company generally is doing okay. Yes, the company is not profitable just yet, but I do think that Lucid Motors will hit profitability in 2022 once we start seeing more cars on the road, once Lucid Motors actually continues to crank, and once it continues to grow more and more. I do think that Lucid Motors is definitely going to be one of the bigger EV companies, and I do think that it does pose one of the biggest threats to compete about Tesla. Now, a lot of people are saying, that Lucid Motors is fraud, that Lucid Motors is going to zero, stuff like that. I honestly don't believe in that. I think it's a very well-rounded company. I think the company does know what they're doing. I think the company has a lot of good backing, and the company for itself hasn't really done anything shady or sketchy or anything like that. I know they are getting investigated, but obviously I'm not too worried. Tesla got investigated. There's a lot of EV companies that get investigated and nothing ever ends up coming out of it anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I am bullish on Lucid Motors. I am bullish on the long-term prospect of what Lucid Motors can actually do. And I do think that Lucid Motors is a good buy at $40.18. I do think the stock has a lot of long-term growth. Now, I want people to put in perspective that it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. Lucid Motors is a company you're going to be holding for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I do expect more of a boom from EV companies in the year of 2023, 2024, and 2025, but that does not mean that we're not going to slowly start seeing the gradual increase in these overall stock companies. And like I said, out of all the EV companies, Lucid is one of my biggest holdings, just because, like I said, I do believe in the company, I do believe in its long-term prospects, and I do believe that it does pose the biggest risk with competing against Tesla. I think the company does offer a lot of basically different things that Tesla does not offer. If you take a look at the Lucid Air, it looks a lot better than the Tesla. The inside has a lot more design, a lot more features, and even a lot of people have said that the Lucid car, the Lucid Air, is a lot better than the Tesla Model S, but obviously it is definitely going to be one to see. But I do recommend people pick up Lucid Motors. I still think $40.19 is pretty cheap for what the company can bring in the long-term prospect. But with that being said, guys, that's all I really have to say about the video. You guys let me know down in the comment section below, guys, what you think of Lucid Motors. Do you guys think Lucid Motors is a good buy, $40.22? If you guys own Lucid Motors stock, how many shares do you guys own and what's your average? I'm always very curious to know. With that being said, guys, thank you. Have a great day.